something, I had to lose my identity of who I was as being a big man. I played college football, played high school football, and so I was rewarded for being big. And I think that's a lot of times people don't talk about on their weight loss journey. They just want to say, okay, well, here's the end product, but it's a process. The diet is the biggest thing that was another thing that I did differently this time around with losing weight, was I focused on my diet.
That's Gerald Schattle, and I'm your host, Santosh Shiva. Welcome to another episode of RunYogi Diaries. Gerald Schattle is a principal in one of the major school districts in the Houston area. While at the surface, his story sounds like that of Biggest Loser's Challenge, what's beneath is a story of self-realization and transformation. While it does matter that he lost a net of 160 pounds to get where he is today, what shifted for him internally is more important. That's what makes this a journey and not an event. So we get to talk about that pivotal moment of self-awareness that got him started on this journey. The process that he created to make the results happen by developing an ecosystem and set of projects. The positive impact it has had on his work and home. And finally, where he's headed in this journey. Let's dig in. Gerald Schattle, I got that right.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to RunYogi Diaries.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to share my story.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. I've read about what you've been up to in Runner's World briefly. And my wife is a teacher in Aldine. And she was the one who brought your story to me and said, hey, look, there's a principal in the school district who's doing this great stuff. And
appreciate it.
In fact, I ran the California 500 because you tweeted about it.
Yeah, I've got my run coach actually did it. Juan Arrieta, he did that as well during the lockdown. So he enjoyed that. And so I was just retweeting things that he was doing, trying to keep motivated during the lockdown, a lot of virtual events and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hey, maybe I'll let you do a quick personal introduction and then we'll get into our conversation.
Okay. So my name's Gerald Schattle. I'm a father, husband, and educator here in Houston, Texas. I'm the principal of the Kenneth R. Knippel Education Center, formerly known as the Aldine Education Center, but it's the District Discipline Alternative Campus. And I've been running I ran my first half marathon in 2015, and I've been running off and on since 2015. But consistently since my weight loss, I started in 2018. And it's just really become a part of me and who I am. And I'm still developing my comfort level and all that. So, I know we'll talk about all that and my weight loss. I've lost 160 pounds, and then I fluctuated because, when you lose that much, your weight fluctuates. So I'm probably sitting at about, because of COVID and everything, just like anybody, I've gained some weight. I'm sitting at about 255. Yeah.
Awesome. And, there was someone wise who's once said that unless you have something to give up, there is no possibility for transformation. Mm. And this was in the context of, it was a metaphor when people who struggle with change and transformation have nothing to give up because they're right about who they are and there's no room to give up something. Mm-hmm. And when you said you lost 160 pounds, that's huge. And you had something to give up so you could be transformed. And if so great, that's terrific. Now, question about, what you do. You mentioned the school that you are a principal in seemed something, it's a kind of a specialty kind of school?
Yeah, so in Texas, we call it the District Alternative Education Placement, DAEP. And so it's formulated so that every school district in the state of Texas has a DAEP, and basically it's for students that have done disciplinary infractions that they have to be placed at an alternative campus for a set amount of days. Our placements are usually 45 days. Some I have for 90 days placement, and that's because they've committed what's called a Title V offense, which means they may have committed a felony outside of school. And so they need to, they need to have their education just like anybody else while they're awaiting their legal process and everything. And so I try to make sure that I take care of those kids and that I'm doing best by them, and my teachers, they take pride in what they're doing every day. And so it's, I've always worked with behavior. When I first started as a teacher in Aldine, and as a para, I was working with emotionally disturbed students in special education. And so I didn't know back in 2000, it was 2002, whenever I started working with emotionally disturbed students, that later that training and that preparation would prepare me for this position as the principal of the alternative campus in Aldine. So it's been a journey.
Wow, that's awesome. It's a tough job, and it's also a noble job, because if you can turn these kids around, that's a huge future for them.
Yes, sir.
That's terrific.
Thank you.
So
No, I was just saying thank you. I appreciate you, because I'll tell you honestly, a lot of times our teachers, we don't get thanked a lot because the kids come in and out. And so when you do hear the thank yous from people and from kids, it makes you feel good. So appreciate it.
Terrific. And now coming back to your fitness journey and your, weight loss journey. So tell us about what switched. Tell us that moment when a light bulb went on saying, oh, something's got to change.
So
what was happening?
So the big one was going to the bathroom inside my campus, and just like, it wasn't just like one moment, it was like a series of moments, but the bathroom was like, having to move around, being that big. And I mean, there's just no other way to say it. It was not comfortable in a bathroom stall. And when I got to that point, I said, this is not living. I started thinking about my kids. I said, okay, do the math. How many 400-pound 80-year-olds are out there? And there's none. And so, when you start really breaking it down, and, I really like you going back to what your quote that you said earlier about losing something. I had to lose my identity of who I was as being a big man. I played college football, played high school football. And so I was rewarded for being big. And so, trying to, and even whenever people talk to me now about my weight, I'm still not comfortable of people saying, hey, well, you look really fit. You're really small. And I'm like, but in my head, I'm still in that process. I'm really not at that point where I feel like I'm comfortable with my weight. And I'm still on this journey. I'm still trying to, like you said, 160 pounds, but I'm still in this process of figuring out a comfortable weight for me, being secure in, because really that's what it is. It's being secure in who you are. And, a lot of times with weight that much, I mean, there's no other way to say it. It's about insecurity, really, and so over the years, I think that I kind of identified as a big person, and then I just did things to further insulate and personify that image out that, oh, I've got to be big. Well, and then that situation in the restroom, and my daughters and my wife, and I'm just like, this can't keep going. And so, and it was crazy. Even at 350, when I ran my first half marathon, I didn't mind the running. I enjoyed it. So it was like I had already put in the time, and I understood how much time it was going to take. And so it was just kind of like a series of dominoes. I I created a goal sheet that I had, and this is funny, before I became the principal of my campus, the year before, I created a list of goals that I was going to do. And one of them was to lose 200 pounds. One of them was to become a building principal. And the other one was become a better husband and father. And did I say the other one about run a full marathon? Did I say that one?
No. Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I think that those were the 4 that I had, and I just put them on my computer screen. And I did that. I took that over whenever I became the principal at my campus. I put that back on my computer screen in my office. So I had actually before I really started my weight loss journey, I had created those goals prior the year before, and it just kind of dominoed from there.
That's terrific. And so how did it get there? I mean, 350 plus pound is a lot. And you probably were not that heavy when you were younger, right?
Yeah. So probably whenever I was a freshman in high school, I was probably anywhere from, it was crazy. I was probably my freshman year, I was probably about 240 or 250, and that's like the weight I am right now is what I was as a 15-year-old kid. And so, I was kind of just, there was no other way to say it, but I was sloppy, not really a lot. I mean, I was a strong kid, but not a lot of mass to me. In my midsection, it was just really kind of just sloppy weight. And so as time went on, and I played football and everything, I basically just packed on the pounds, and because I felt like, I've got to get bigger. I've got to get, you get stronger and stuff. And, you would work out, but then I would, like, after working out, I'd feel good about myself. And then me and my buddies would go to the Chinese buffet. And so you'd sit there and eat away all the positive things you did, with the negative stuff. And so it counteracted it. And then I got down, when I reported to camp, my freshman year of college, I got down to about 267. I had a summer job working for Aldine, and basically the heat and really continuously moving and everything, it dropped my weight significantly. And so I reported to camp at about 267, 270, and I was real fit. And then played college football that year, and then came home, packed on some more weight because I wasn't being successful in college. I was in the process of losing my academic scholarship. And so I had a girlfriend at the time, and basically what I did was, once again, turn to food and, packed on everything that I had success prior to that. Cause I was leaner. I was like 280, but I was muscle and, playing and working out and everything. So then I gained back I got like up to 305 or 315. And then from there, over the years, I just started packing on the pounds.
How many years was this? How many years?
So I would say probably from 2002 to the time of my first daughter, which was 2008, I went from probably 305 to about 370 pounds when my first daughter was born. And then, and just the coaching, I was a football coach at the time. Still, like I said, I was in my 20s, but I was still like identifying as, like, in my mind, like, I'm an athlete. I can do this. I can eat this. I just didn't have good habits, and eating whatever I wanted, just not really working out, thinking that I could do a minimal amount of work and the weight would come down. And like I said, we had a weight loss challenge, me and a couple coaching buddies at one point in time, right before I think it was the year before my daughter was born. I dropped 50 pounds, it was like that. Mm-hmm. And I got down to 300, and then within 6 months, it was back up. It went, so a lot of yo-yoing up and down. And then I guess it was by the time my second daughter was born, I was probably about 380. And then by the time I became principal in 20, I guess it was 2017, I was 397 pounds.
So was there any stress related issue? Did work get stressful because of that? Were you eating more? So that happens quite a bit for many people, right? Especially once you start working and you have a career, you kind of take, fitness. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think it was stress. It was like just comfort. Like food becomes comfort, and you like these meals and you like these certain feelings, and so basically it becomes, people don't want to admit it, but food's an addiction. And I mean, I think that there's no other way to say it. I mean, even right now, as I still have, there's certain foods that trigger me to overeat. Tortilla chips, I love them, and I'll sit there and eat a whole bag of tortilla chips. I'm still developing, in this process of developing a good, healthy relationship with food, and it's still a process. I'm starting more now journaling things and putting my thoughts on paper to help me with that process and developing a better relationship. There was another guy, another runner, an ultra runner that I kind of was connected with through a mutual family friend. His name's Gerald Schattle, and he lost 400 pounds. I mean, he was 400 pounds and he lost 200 pounds. And so I kind of sought him out, and he has kind of the same situation. You not understanding, he had to figure out what was his coping mechanism. Why was he connected to food? Things like that. And we talked this past summer during COVID and everything. He said, you're in this transition. You're still going through this process of finding out who you are and what, why you continue to turn to food, and what is that? And so I'm still working through that, and I think that's a lot of times people don't talk about on their weight loss journey. They just want to say, okay, well, here's the end product, but it's a process. I mean, there's no other way to say it. And if you don't kind of unpack that, and I think, your podcast is probably one of the best that I've listened to, the stories of kind of unpacking that and talking about that journey. But people, when they talk about weight loss, they don't realize all the kind of mental connections that people form with food. And I'm learning that myself. But there was a lot of comfort in the food and security. And so really going back to what you said about stress, I was a new principal, and, being the principal of the DAEP at a large district, you have, we had at that point in time was the largest that we've had since. Every year that I've been principal, the numbers have been reduced. We've done a good job of in our school district of working through behavior and helping and supporting kids and teachers. Our numbers have slowly gone down, but we were sitting at probably at that point in time, I was sitting at 250 kids at a campus that, and kids coming in and out. I probably had at that year, like I said, was probably the worst. And we had about, I want to say close to 1,500 kids come through the building. And I said, okay, what's one thing that I can control and help me as well? And that was I wanted to feel good about myself because, I was growing in my leadership too. And so the weight was something I said, I can control this. I can't control what happens with the students that I serve. I can't control the teachers that I, work with or whatever. I can only lead them and grow them, but I can control how I, perform and how I feed myself and how I feel. And that was something that I started doing. I started writing down everything I ate, journaling those foods. And that's what really kind of propelled everything. Just the uh,
It's
the
terrific.
ability to go ahead.
No, that's terrific. I do want to spend some more time on the what you're doing, how you're working on your diet or your eating,
Hmm.
and but before that, a question that I had was running about the running aspect itself.
Yes, sir.
And you talked about this awakening, this wake up moment, and you decided to go out and run. Was there a particular reason you chose running versus like bicycling or some other sport?
So whenever I ran my half marathon, I actually announced to my staff at Lewis Middle School whenever I was the AP there, and I trained, and they supported me through that endeavor. And so I had my principal at the time, Cassandra Bell. Her and a couple other staff from Lewis went to the Woodlands Marathon and cheered me on whenever I ran that first half marathon. And like I said, even as a big man, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the training. I enjoyed running. And basically I said, okay, how can I connect this weight loss? And that was like, this running aspect picked up a year after I had started doing the journaling of my weight. So I had already lost 90 pounds. I didn't start running until I got to 300. I think it was like I was like at 320 or something like that. So I had lost a significant amount of weight already. And so I said, okay, let me do this. Let me try to make this bigger than, to hold me accountable. So I said, okay, I'm going to start doing community runs in the Aldine community, and that way I can connect with kids. But the initial plan was that the kids would join me. But then the more I realized was, I like to run early in the morning, and that's not going to necessarily take place with kids. But what I did have happen was the AP that was also at my campus, Mr. Sidibe, Aristide Sidibe, he still works in Aldine. He said, hey, I'll go on some of these community runs with you. And so he was my accountability partner. He was somebody that asked about my progress and everything. And I think I didn't really realize what I was doing, but I was setting the foundation of how to lose weight successfully. I had accountability partners. I basically told my staff, hey, I'm working on my weight. Hey, I'm doing these community runs. They were able to talk to me about it. And so by having those community runs, it made me say, okay, I want to continue to connect with kids. I want to continue to build these relationships. And so I was able to talk. I ran around every single campus in Aldine, all 82 of them, but I also connected it to prayer, because that's what also started me on my journey. Was I had a conversation with God. I said, Lord, I can't do this by myself, because I tried it by myself. Mm-hmm. And I was it was kind of that first time that I humbled myself, and I said, look, I put pride out the window, and I'm like, I can't do this. And, he heard my prayer, and like I've said in the story, he's been with me ever since. And that's another thing that's still going. My prayer life has dramatically increased through this. And, because there's moments where, just in my leadership in this process, where I don't feel like I'm doing a good job, or I feel like I'm, struggling. And so I turn to prayer a lot of times on runs, just in the morning, in my journal. And, I still connect, because I constantly have to have that. I'm realizing that having a good, strong prayer life is helping me in this journey and refining me and making me better to help the kids that I serve.
So I know you're saying you're saying a few things that are very, very powerful and very important, right? So one is, you started running, and you found it to be something you enjoyed. Mm-hmm. And runner's high, everybody talks about runner's high. So it's probably gave you a sense of a euphoria that maybe connected with, hey, I can continue doing this, right? Mm-hmm. And the other thing that I'm also hearing what you're saying is that you created a structure you made a public statement saying, hey, I'm going to do this. And this is very powerful because you can have great goals in your head.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're the only person walking around with it, it's probably not going to be a reality because
Right.
nobody's holding you to account, and you can go back to sleep when you get up in the morning for a run. You don't have to do it. So you also set up a structure where you had other people invested in your commitment, which is a big commitment, which is bigger than you. And then you also created projects like a running community around each campus, which created a set of people who not just called you to your account, but they also participated with you. And last thing that I think what you said is also very important, which is faith. And if you can't have faith in anything, I mean, you can have faith in God. That's one form of faith for people who do not necessarily, are not religious. Faith can come in many ways. It could be
Yes.
faith in it could be faith in your daughter. It could be faith in something bigger than yourself. Somewhere you can place some faith bigger than yourself and then get on with the journey. And I think that's something I'm hearing in what you're saying. And that's powerful because for people who want to take something on, something similar, your whole model, it's like a model you've created, and it can be actually written down as hey, these are the 4 things you want to do if you want to take on something bigger than yourself. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. It's amazing.
Thank you. And, I'm still getting used to this experience about what you're saying about it being powerful and things like that. Cause I don't, I feel like I'm just an everyday type of guy. So I don't really see it. But when people tell me that, I'm humbled by it. And so being comfortable talking about it, it's still taking me time to get used to that. But it's doable. That's the whole thing. And I think the persistence, that's another thing that I changed this time. Cause like I said, I tried to lose weight tons of times, but it was the ability to I guess there's no other word but grace. I gave myself grace to make mistakes, come back from them, and then dust myself off. And that it didn't matter if I had like a week of not being successful or just a day. I came back and I said, okay, you can still restart. You can still start over. You can still get better. And so, I think if I may say, yes, sir.
Another important point that you raise is, I think this is more than just a weight loss story. To me, what I'm hearing is this is a story of self-improvement, transformation. It's someone, what I'm hearing is there is a will, there is a desire to be a better version of yourself. And weight is a measure of that. It's not, there have been discussions, you hear a lot of times about, hey, what's wrong with my weight? Why can't I be heavy? No, I don't think we're judging anyone being heavy. Mm-hmm. That's a choice. That's a choice you're making. But right. I think the point you're making is this is your personal choice of wanting to be someone who can be what you can be, like really be the best version of yourself. And a part of that was, hey, can I be a fitter version of myself physically? That's what I'm probably hearing, and that's why you're able to come back in what I'm hearing, because it doesn't matter. It's not the end of the world if you don't lose 2 pounds this week, because that's not what this is about. This is about right.
Yeah, you're 100% right, and what I'm loving about our conversation is you're helping me process this too, because I haven't really unpacked all this, and so I'm enjoying this conversation. And
I gave you a framework. You can create a framework now.
Yeah,
and
you're right.
Patent it.
You're right. And I think the next thing that when you talk about better version of myself, I changed my diet. Specifically now I'm more plant-based. I don't eat any meat or dairy. And a lot of people, I tell people all the time, I didn't do it necessarily for the environment or for the animals. It was it's for me, it's strictly for health, and I've seen the benefits, and really and truly, I think the reason that, yes, I've gained weight, during COVID, but part of that's, once again, going back to choices. I was choosing junk food, choosing that comfort. And now I'm needing to reset. And that's one of the things that I'm doing right now, is getting back on track and, going back to square one. And that's the good thing about this whole deal, is I've got that framework. I know what works. And the diet is the biggest thing that was another thing that I did differently this time around with losing weight, was I focused on my diet more and the choices. And then I incorporated the fitness, because I think a lot of people, they focus on the fitness part first and they get discouraged. I focused on the diet, which was really the biggest hurdle for me. And then I focused on my fitness, and then it kind of, because I had already had that the previous success, I knew I could be successful. I was able to enjoy the running part of it. And
so I have a question.
Diet. Go ahead.
Diet. So how did you come about the plant-based diet? Did somebody inspire you to do that, or?
So it goes back to the mutual family friend, Jared Collin he's a buddy of ours, me and my wife. So actually a friend of hers from high school. He's ran the Leadville 100 3 times and finished. And he was a plant-based runner. And so that kind of planted a seed in my head. And I was like, okay. Plus I've watched the documentary Force Over Knives. I listened to the Physicians Committee podcast, and I just started kind of like saying, look, I've done this I've heard about this. I tried it off and on, but another thing I did was I connected it to my plant-based beginning. I connected it to Lent. We're Episcopalians, me and my wife. And so I said, okay, for Lent, she said she was going to give up meat. I said, I want to go vegan. So I went whole food plant-based for Lent. And I just never turned back. And that's when I really started seeing even more positive results. I lost the rest of my weight through a plant-based diet, and it stayed pretty consistent. I mean, it's fluctuated up and down, but it's not something that's spiraled out of control. And that's because of the plant-based diet. Yeah. And, that's
you look amazing. That's amazing, because especially, I guess you've grown up eating meat and, and it's huge for someone like you to switch to that lifestyle. And I think we're coming back to the same point. It is about giving up something for a better version of yourself. And you can debate, right. If you go to the food debates, you'll find all kind of opinions about vegan and this and paleo and keto. And the point is not which system you choose. The system you choose, whatever that works for you. But it's again about, hey, giving up something for a better result or outcome, right? Yeah, it makes sense. Makes sense.
And,
so, go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
And on the running part of it, you ran the marathon in 2019. What about concerns about knees and stuff? Did people come and tell you, hey, why are you doing this? You're going to hurt your knee?
Yes. You're 100% right. Like even my parents, like they were and they're both overweight. I love them, but they're both battling type 2 diabetes. And I actually convinced them to go plant-based. And my mom went from getting 3 injections of insulin to getting only 1. My dad, he's on blood thinners, things like that. They were like, oh, you need to watch your knees and everything like that. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so let me get this straight. I'm overweight, and I'm enjoying this. I'm being successful with it. I've lost a ton amount of weight. My knees aren't giving me any problems. Why are we concerned about that? And so I just, I think it was more out of just the parental fear of, and a lot of times friends too. They hear stories about, so and so had to get a knee replacement, or so and so had knee injuries, and I think it's, honestly, I haven't, knock on wood, I haven't had any major injuries, and I think it's due to the fact that I did a run walk method my first marathon. I'm not wrapped up in time, like, trying to get this ultimate goal. And it's taken me time to realize, like, the only person that determines who's a failure is yourself. You determine if you're a failure, whatever goal you're trying to reach. And through this running process and with my run coach, I've set some goals, and sometimes they were just like way too out there. And like, we had a conversation. I ran 4 50Ks this summer. And so sometimes those were involved, like, I ran like the first 20 plus miles, and then, like, I died the last bit, or I only got, like, on one of them, I only got 13 miles in, and then I had to walk the rest, but I wanted to complete that mileage, and I didn't care how I got it. I just wanted to do it for myself. And, then I basically, after that, I signed up for 4 100Ks, which was ridiculous, because it was like you beat yourself up through all this training and running in the summer and everything. I was getting wrapped up in the mileage thing. Like, I thought, like, I've got to run 100 miles for me to feel successful and everything. And like I said, it's this whole process is still finding my identity and finding that comfort level in running. And now I feel like I'm starting to kind of come out of that season where I was kind of equating my success to mileage or races or whatever. And I'm just now starting to say, look, man, this is more than just weight loss or whatever. Just enjoy this journey. And I'm really starting to finally say, hey, enjoy life, enjoy the running, enjoy time with the family. Because my wife, we all joined a run club. We joined Champions Runners Association. She's doing a 10K. She had a walk with a friend this morning. It's changed our lifestyle as a family. And for, like, really until just recently, I've kind of realized, like, look, you enjoy the journey, enjoy what's going on around you. Because if you get too wrapped up in these new goals that you're trying to create that really don't mean anything, you're going to become something else that you didn't want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And you also make a very interesting point about coming back to questions about knees, and that's a question that you get asked all the time, especially if you're someone who's running. And you made a very interesting point about your approach to running marathons, the run walk method, which is a very legitimate method. I think Jeff Galloway kind of formalized it and popularized it. It's a very legitimate way of completing marathons. One, coming back to this question about knees and injuries, it also reduces the risk of injury. When you're starting off, you don't have to go compete with the elites. Take it easy, like you said. Enjoy the journey. It's about your own health and it's about your own fitness. So run walk is very, very valid. And the other thing that you made, which is a very interesting point, is not to get obsessed with times, finish times. Everyone has their own finish times. If you're going to compete and compare with other person's finish time, you can. We're not saying you shouldn't be competitive. That's a way to do it, but you got to get there through a process. And if your choice is to be competitive, then you got to put in the work to get there to be competitive. You can't do that on the first year of your running. Not everybody can, at least. So that's a very important point you make, which is working for you. For folks who are listening to this and saying, hey, why can't I do this? Well, you can do it. This is probably a good way to do it. And I think the other point that you're making is about the 50K and 100Ks. What I'm hearing is, when you describe this as a journey, you're also in a way looking at what is my limit? What else can I where else can I take this?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's where, and it's amazing. You're doing 450Ks in this year, and especially a COVID hit year, and 100Ks. So were all of them virtual, or did you get to see
So the
some in person?
50Ks were all virtual, and actually, I still haven't ran 100K, and I don't think I like really being honest with you, Santosh. I'm not. I've said to myself, like, it's when I was getting wrapped up in this fictitious mileage goal thing, I wasn't enjoying it, and so I was just like. And I had a conversation with my buddy Jared, and I appreciated it. He told me, he said, okay, just because you run 100 miles, you're going to change. But he says, the question you have to ask yourself, you have to have that good, a solid why, because as you're going through training, all these things, if your why isn't there, you're not going to be able to meet that goal, and it's not going to be able to sustain you through 100 miles. But he also said, you're going to be changed when you complete the 100-mile, but he said it's not going to like alter your life in a way that maybe you think it's going to do it. And he said, but you're going to be changed. And I kind of thought about this, like, I've already become a better version of my other self. So why am I trying to even, leap into this other thing? And I finally have just kind of set that goal to the side, and like I said, I'm probably not going to do it, and I'm starting to become okay with that, and just like I said, enjoy the health, enjoy time with my kids, enjoy time with becoming the best leader I can be for my campus, and that's really what I'm starting to see is the best approach for me, is that balance, and I think that's the whole deal, is the balance.
Terrific. Yeah, absolutely. So regarding how it's helping you at work, so is your running and this new lifestyle that you're on, is that making a difference to how you're able to function at work as well?
So yes and no, like I said, because a lot of times, because of some ways it has, but I think sometimes people, because I've done it, lost so much weight, they think maybe I don't understand where they're sitting at in their process. And so I've tried to help some people, and they're like, well, I can't do what you're doing. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't, I guess necessarily say it to them, but like, you're going to have to experience a little bit of pain and effort to get to where you're wanting to go. And I guess I just kind of plant the seed, and that's starting to become my approach, is like, because, whenever they're looking at me right now, they're not looking at all the stuff I had to go through to get to where I'm at. And I think that, it's helping me. Yes. But, it's also, I guess, I'm still going through it. So I whenever you ask that question, it's like, I don't know. I guess it's a tough, like I'm better, but I'm still growing in it. You know what I'm saying? So I think that with my kids, it helps me connect, because the part where it helps them is I tell them, like, look, I was this weight. You might think that you're having to climb a mountain too. You might have this goal that you're trying to reach. And, it helps me connect with them really well. With my teachers, it's, they've been along in the journey, some of them. So, it's been good in that part. But like I said, I think with losing weight, some people, I have to just know that I'm going to support you, because I'm thinking about my journey. My friend Jared, he always, every time I stopped through Facebook, he always, supported me. He didn't ever tell me like, hey, you need to do this, or hey, he just said, hey, I'm proud of you. Hey, you're doing a great job. And I think that's the approach I've taken with a lot of people. There's been people that have reached out to me and said, how can you help? I'm looking for advice, and I give it to them. And then, some of them take it, some of them don't. And then they come and they circle back to me, and I give them a little bit more advice. And so it's just kind of that, when they're ready to receive it, they receive it. And I guess I have to, I'm learning to kind of go through that process as well with them.
Yeah, no, that's well said. And that's true with anything, right? Because ultimately any change or any transformation you undertake has to come from something within, like it happened to you or it happened to scores of people. And there is a lot of resource available. There's a lot of knowledge available. Mm-hmm. But there's some people who pick it and act on it, some people who don't. And there's probably a time for everyone. And I think what you said makes sense. And it's a journey even in that space when you're trying to bring about certain change, even in your environment. There has to be a lot of patience. You have to let people get to that point themselves, and you can't force it. And yeah, absolutely. I completely hear you there. But I hope you don't give up and you continue to stand for it. And
yes, sir.
And hope people will pick up the energy and start implementing that in their lives. So perfect. So what next? What is your next big project? What are you up to?
So my next big thing is, I think, just finding that balance, finding the balance with family, with work. That's my next big goal, is just being content and happy with the process. I think like right now, I don't really, because of COVID, I don't have to worry about a race. And so like I'm just enjoying the training. I'm enjoying running with the runners group, just enjoying it. And I think that's really my goal. Like right now is just to find that balance. I actually, a prayer that I'm saying right now, and I'm writing down in my journal, is I said, I have it written down that I want to be 225 pounds. I want to be the fittest father and husband, and be a better leader for my campus. And so and I'm just writing that down to kind of plant that seed and continually focus on that, because I think that's another thing that I'm learning, that I'd gotten down to like 230 and I felt like I wanted to get to 200, but I'm realizing that probably 225, 230, for me, that's kind of a good weight. And I felt good at that weight. I felt comfortable at that weight. And I think that that's where I'm going to stick at. I think I was trying to get to a goal that I had in my head, but I'm realizing that I just want to be fit, and I need to incorporate weight training. I haven't done that, and so that, like I said, just another level of fitness. Continue to kind of tweak this, that's really my next goal is balance and adding another level of fitness.
Wow, awesome! No, that's terrific. That's a great place to be in. I think we're kind of coming to an end of our conversation today. I really enjoyed talking to you. You're onto something, and you set a big example, especially in education circles. People are looking at you. Kids are looking at the teachers, at educators.
Yes, sir.
You can tell them what you want, but they're going to look at all of us, at educators, and say, hey, that's the way that works. So I know you're probably figuring out how to disperse some of this across, but I think people are already seeing you and getting inspired, even without you knowing it.
Oh, thank you.
So that's something I would thank you for what you do. Thanks again for being on the show. Be at it.
The opportunity.
Hopefully we bump into each other in one of the marathons soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.